held on July 28th, 2023 have been provided. Does anyone have any edits to make regarding the prior minutes before we proceed? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the July 28th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. The minutes are approved. In accordance with Commission Policy 1.200, we have reserved time for up to 30 minutes of public comment. Hayden, can you please introduce any individuals who have registered for public comment?
We did not have anyone register for comment today, and all written comments received by the deadline yesterday have been provided in your packet.
Thank you. All right, we will move into our first matter, which is the report from our Business Operations Committee. I would like to recognize Commissioner Michael Carter to introduce these items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the School Performance and Accountability Committee, the committee heard an operation update, budget update, and an overview of TISA. I would like to recognize Melanie for these updates.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, we covered quite a bit of ground in our Business Operations Committee. The first was our FY24 budget to actuals. These were relatively limited in terms of the amount of time covered. We're not seeing any major expected variance, but we are anticipating that later this month we will receive our first true-up for enrollment for our revenue, as well as some additional information about paper performance awards. Those were about twice as high this year, which is exciting for us as an agency and our staff than in previous years, but we anticipate some additional adjustments will be made to our budget to reflect that additional paper performance funding. For our FY25 budget request, that was submitted to FNA on September 11th. We are requesting one position that we are hoping we will be approved to hire. The goal for that position would be to support our English learner population. That is a growing population in our district that we anticipate will continue to grow over time. So we are hoping to be able to add a position that can be dedicated to support English learners. This request also included information about just expanding our revenue allowable in the budget. This is not coming from any request related to state general funds. This is only to be able to recognize additional pass-through revenue to reflect our growth as we grow as a district. For grants updates, we are excited to announce we have started rolling out our grants as the previous fiscal year is closed, and we are moving towards getting our schools access to all of their funds. We're anticipating having 13 grants at a minimum that we're administering this year across our 13 schools. So we're looking at about $8.5 million in grant funding that we will be awarding out and administering this year. We're working closely with our schools to make sure that as our portfolio grows, they're keeping a really close eye on their drawdown throughout the year so that we are not seeing large amounts of remaining grant funds at the close of the fiscal year, and that's going to be a focus area for us as we move forward. We also shared an overview of TISA, charter funding in general, and how that is slightly different than previous processes and similar in some ways under the BEP. So I think high level, there are 3 different portions of charter school funding that we covered. All of our schools this year are receiving more funding than they were previously under the BEP. However, even on a per pupil basis, but there is now a greater variance between schools. It used to be the only variance you saw was based on where a school was located, and now we see that our schools are generating different levels of funding under TISA, which is to be expected. I do also want to acknowledge that there was some discussion about the prospect of being able to use TennCare data to classify students as economically disadvantaged through a direct certification process. So I think we had some great discussion about that. I was able to touch base with the TDOE to get an update about what that conversation looks like. And currently, this is sort of a 2-step process. There is essentially a pilot year that Tennessee has started with about 14 other states to use this data for school nutrition identification purposes. So over the course of this year, the department, the USDA, USED, TennCare will all be working closely together on implementing this pilot and gathering data. That is sort of step 1 in this process and in this discussion. After that data is reviewed, there will be additional conversations between USED, the TDOE, TennCare, potentially other federal agencies and the legislature about what updates, what processes, if this is reasonable moving forward. So Tennessee was one of the, I believe, in the second group of states to take advantage of this. So we are certainly moving towards that direction and making progress there. But we will have more information over the coming year or so about that as well. Finally, Tess, as part of her operations update, first I want to welcome that since our last meeting, Noelle Farley has joined us as our grants coordinator, which we are very excited about. That means we are fully staffed with 18 people, which is much more than the 5 that I think we had when I started. So very exciting there. Also very exciting for Gomer and I to have additional grant support. So we also have had our office built out to be able to accommodate all of our seating. There's an updated staff organizational chart that's been posted on our website. And finally, we are asking for a vote on the contract for Kelly Croneman. This contract required some additional approvals from the Central Procurement Office that we received, I believe, the day after our last business meeting. So our policies require that the commission approve contracts over $25,000. This is for $35,000. But per our policies, when we run into time-sensitive issues, we can request retroactive approval. So we are requesting that today as well. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the committee.
Commissioner Carter, do you have anything you would like to add?
I think that, again, you're asking for approval from the board regarding,
Yes, we are requesting approval for the contract for Kelly Croneman.
we're needing to have 2 separate approvals, her report as well as in the support for this particular dollar
Let me ask you-
allocation.
Yeah, does anybody else have any questions on the report, on Melanie's report, or comments? Okay,
Move that we look at, I want to make sure I get it right, Melanie, approval of this $35,000, it's not an allotment, but again, contract amount. And who's the person that we're approving?
With Kelly Croneman.
Kelly Cronin.
all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And I don't think we need to formally move the approval of the report since there were no questions or comments, but we certainly are grateful for it and for your help and service.
Welcome.
Our next agenda item is a report of the Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee. I would like to recognize Vice Chair Chris Tudor for this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Rules, Policy, and Governance Committee had a discussion of Commission Policy 1.100 on final reading. I would like to recognize General Counsel Ashley Thomas to explain this item.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you stated, at our September meeting, we discussed updates to Commission Policy 1.100. As a reminder, this change would name the Commission Chair as an ex officio member of all committees for purposes of maintaining and establishing quorum. Additionally, a committee chair may name another commissioner other than the chair as an ex officio member for quorum purposes of any committee. I spoke with Commissioner Smith, Eddie Smith. Welcome, Commissioner Lauren Smith. I spoke with Commissioner Eddie Smith in July and added language that limited the use of the committee chair appointment to emergency circumstances only. And unless Commissioner Tudor has further language, I think this is ready for a vote.
Further comment from me.
Anyone have any questions for Ashley? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the adoption of Commission Policy 1.100 on final reading?
I so move.
Thank you. All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, the motion is passed. Our next item on our agenda today is a report from the School Performance and Accountability Committee. Commissioner Patterson, I'd like to recognize you to give this report.
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Chairman. The committee heard presentations on school year 24-25 renewal criteria and SY 23-24 update, the Bluff City High School Plan of Correction, and the TISA Accountability Report. So I'd like to recognize Beth Figueroa for an overview of these items.
Thank you, Chairman Patterson. So at the School Performance and Accountability Committee meeting, Commission staff presented an updated renewal criteria for the 2024 renewal cycle. So Commission staff is currently preparing to oversee the renewal process for 3 schools that transitioned recently from the ASD to the Commission. And so this includes Libertas School of Memphis, Lee Neely's Bend, and Cornerstone Prep Denver. There were no major changes made to the criteria. However, there was some additional context and contextual components that were added to the document and that are reflected within that updated criteria. Overall, we talked with each of the stakeholders, and they agreed that the criteria demonstrated a fair assessment of past performance. And this is particularly important just given the fact that data availability, we do have sometimes issues just getting that information specifically for schools transitioning from the ASD. And so we had a really robust conversation related to the updated renewal criteria, and Commission staff is recommending approval of that criteria today. And once that is approved, then we will kick off the 2024 renewal cycle. During the SPA committee, staff also talked through school updates for the 23-24 school year. We covered topics related to authorizing, so that included site visits, pre-opening, as well as we received 2 amendment petitions for this upcoming cycle. During the presentation, we also discussed third grade promotion data, and we discussed data related to commission students and which students were promoted, students that were promoted with continued supports, as well as the percentages of students that were retained. Additionally, a part of that update was covering the results-based monitoring that we will be working through in this upcoming year, as the Commission has been identified by the Department of Education as a level 3 or for level 3 results-based monitoring. And then lastly, we conclude that presentation talking through school safety as well as funding. Next, Commission staff provided the committee with an update on Bluff City's performance for the school year 22-23 as in alignment with their plan of correction. And ultimately, due to the school not demonstrating adequate marginal progress toward the indicators that were outlined for success within their plan of correction that was adopted during last school year, Commission staff is recommending that Bluff City High School does remain on academic probation for school year 23-24. Commission staff has met with Bluff City leadership to review this information. We've provided them notice regarding this recommendation, and that was provided to their executive director as well as their governing board chair, so they are aware of this discussion. Bluff City has submitted an updated plan of correction that outlines more detailed goals that we will be utilizing for this upcoming school year. And Commission staff is going to continue to meet with the school on a bi-monthly basis to discuss their progress and plan of correction. And then lastly, as a part of our SPA committee, our executive director presented the TISA accountability report template, which sets forth the commission goals related to student achievement. This is a new report that must be adopted annually as a part of TISA accountability. And within that report, it discusses what our established goals are, as well as the budget and how we're going to execute action steps to meet the established goals. And so this report will be reviewed annually, and any feedback that you have regarding that report is welcome and appreciated. And so at this time, I'm happy to take any questions, as well as we have the vote on the renewal criteria, as well as the Bluff plan of probationary status.
Okay, I'll start. Are there any questions or comments by any of the commissioners on any of these matters that Beth has covered? Yes, Eddie.
So help me with the Bluff City Correction Plan. How comfortable are we as a staff, our staff, that Bluff City is actually going to meet and start improving? And based on that, again, we want to make sure that every school that we have is a high performing. Just meeting the status quo isn't good enough. We've said that from the first day. If not, kind of talk us through what is the timeline of what we're looking at over the next 24 to 48 months if they don't start improving.
Yes, that's a great question, and I'll start, and then I'm going to pass it to Maggie Lund to fill in any gaps that I miss. It is very important to us to work with our schools. We've been very clear about what the expectations are and wanting to see what marginal growth looks like. We understand that the school may not make leaps and bounds of growth within a year. However, a lot of the reason why we've continued them on probationary status is that even though there might be minimal growth, it is not sufficient. And so in this year's plan of correction, we're working to be very clear, giving them the runway, knowing that they're within their last 5 years of operation, to say, you need to be continuing to make progress, and it needs to be not just status quo, not just 1%, but we need to be seeing material increases in student performance and achievement. And then I'll pass it to Maggie to fill in.
I think you covered it. I think the conversations very much surround, this is their corrective action plan, and so we're not going to tell them what needs to happen within their school building to meet the criteria, but we are going to hold them to the criteria and the indicators within their plan. So you'll see within the updated plan that there are some adjustments to those indicators and some adjustments to their plan, some very large adjustments to that plan. So we'll continue to meet with them bi-monthly, and we'll provide you all updates at the SPA committee meeting as those meetings happen with metrics aligned to those key indicators.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I were to ask the question as to the key issues, I mean, if you had to name 2 or 3.
The issues that are within their probationary status that are outlined are cumulative performance towards their academic goals. So when looking at their academic performance over time, there are some indicators within there regarding academic achievement, growth, and then we've also looked at some internal indicators as well regarding subgroup performance with RTI. Also, we have chronic absenteeism is a concern at the school. We have enrollment needing to increase year over year, and suspension rate as well. So those are the indicators as outlined within their probationary status, and the plan of correction is designed to address and track all of those indicators.
So what's the monitorization process? How often are we providing feedback or receiving feedback as to see if, in fact, that they're meeting and exceeding?
We meet with the school bi-monthly. So every other month, we have a meeting with the leadership team of the high school to review their progress towards the indicators. So they come prepared to that meeting with information, whether it's internal assessment data or whatever information they have internally that they can provide to us to show that they're making progress towards those goals. And then ultimately, in September, as data starts to become available, we back in that data, looking at those indicators kind of holistically over the course of the year to determine if the school has made adequate marginal progress. But this isn't something that is a one and done situation. This is a constant collaboration between us as the authorizer and the school. Every other month we have these meetings, but we're in communication way more than that, frankly, just to make sure that progress is being made.
And if I could follow up, so we're coming up on the end of basically the first 9 weeks of the first quarter of this school year's almost done. Where's this school at in fixing their chronic absenteeism? If we have any of that data after this first 9 weeks, are they on task, on par with fixed, starting to improve it, or does it look like it did the previous year?
Well, I think it's a little early to tell for the school year. Chronic absenteeism is something that compiles over the course of the year, right, for someone to be chronically absent. So they've made some gains in terms of attendance this year, so I think that's an early indicator of success. But I do want to note, in what we provided to you all, which I can't speak on the record because it's still embargoed, you can actually look at the chronic absenteeism rates over the last couple years for the school as well.
Any other questions or comments? I would just note for our new members, this is one of the 4 schools that the commission inherited when we were formed under statute, and that's why they are in their last 5-year probation period. It sounds a little odd because we haven't been around for 10 years, but we inherited them. They had operated under the DOE prior process until we were formed, and this is their 2nd year in probation with us. we got where we are. Okay, hearing nothing else, I'm going to take these matters up one at a time. To start, do we have a motion to approve the school year 24-25 renewal criteria?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion's passed. We also need to vote on the Bluff City High School Plan of Correction. Do we have a motion to approve this plan?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is passed. Thank you, Commissioner Patterson, for your work. This is a challenging committee, and I appreciate your new agreement to lead it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, our next,
Madam Chair, just so
Yes,
he's
sir.
missed on the committee that you moved him away from. But our new chair has proven to be exceptionally better.
Just to help, just to help with our new chair, Commissioner, but I'm the one who made the change before I left, so I will take the blame.
that's all right. Commissioner Patterson has learned what I learned a long time. You can have a lot of work to do on SPNA.
Yes, you can.
All right, our next item on our agenda is our strategic plan update, and I would like to recognize Drejene Cummings to provide that update.
Chair Richards,
is she?
I'm not Trajan, but we are having a live stream issue right now. So if I could ask that we just pause while Trajan, in addition to running the strategic plan update, is on the phone with STS trying to work through the live stream issue. So if we could just take a brief recess until we get